What happens when a tower is too hard? What happens when a tower is considered impossible? When it stands silently over everyone, just waiting for someone who doesn't just want to win, but needs to win. Against a tower that was always meant to shine as a top one, yet never managed to gain that title. A tower that outlasted every player that dared to attempt it. And now, after years of waiting, it finally meets a player who refuses to fail. This is how an impossible Roblox tower was finally beaten. Before we start this video, I'd really appreciate if you could subscribe to the channel. Only a small percentage of people who watch my videos are actually subscribed, and I want to reach 50,000 subscribers by the end of 2026. So if you could hit that red button, it would mean the world to me. Anyway, let's get back into the video. During the initial rise of difficult Roblox obbies, there wasn't much to grind. Most players were introduced through Kitty's Towers of Hell or Obby Legion, a group where skilled hobbyists climbed the ranks by beating progressively harder challenges. But as the community grew, so did the players. Skill levels rose, limits were pushed further than ever before, and soon enough, obby builders were forced to experiment with gameplay the community had never seen before. One of these builders was Ice and Salt. Today, he's regarded as one of the most iconic and legendary figures in the obbying community, being the creator behind infamous obbies that are still remembered years later, like Mint Skies and Enigmatic Void. Both considered early masterpieces of difficult obbies. But back in 2018, no one truly knew how far difficulty could be pushed. At the time, the hardest obby ever completed was Tower of Confusion, an insane difficulty tower that stood as the peak of Eternal Towers of Hell, and the hardest tower the game had ever seen. While many believed the difficulty ceiling had nearly been reached, others whispered that the community hadn't even scratched the surface. It was a rumor that spread quietly through the scene, and seemed hard to believe, especially when obbies like Tower of Confusion already seemed barely possible to complete. After hearing these rumors, Ice and Salt wanted to experiment by pushing the early boundaries of Roblox obbies. And soon enough, he'd find out these rumors were true. This is the Stone Facility. When it was created, it shattered every difficulty barrier that came before it. The tower stood 2 full tiers above Tower of Confusion, reaching all the way into Catastrophic, a difficulty no obby had ever touched. It became the first Catastrophic tower in history, and in doing so, ignited a wave of creations that tried to follow in its footsteps. Ice and Salt spent months bringing it to life. He was forced to invent jumps the community had never seen before. Floor 6 became infamous for its brutal spike in difficulty, forcing players to master long jumps just to progress. Floor 9 also became incredibly memorable, being one of the first builds to showcase wall hops inside a tower, as well as being one of the hardest floors in the Stone Facility. Everything about the Stone Facility screamed that it was destined to be the hardest tower ever beaten. By 2020, it should have claimed its place at the top, but time passed, and Stone remained unbeaten. Other catastrophic towers were built and beaten. Slowly but steadily, Stone's chance to become the hardest tower on Roblox was fading, standing as a monument to what could have been, until Skitsuna finally conquered it in 2022. But by now, it had been too late. The stone facility was never perfect. Being the first catastrophic in Roblox history, it obviously had flaws, and Ice and Salt knew this. For a while, he had been considering leaving the community. He had been one of the most notable names for years, and now he thought it was finally time to move on. But before that, Ice and Salt wanted to give the community a final send-off with one more tower. This is the Stone Facility Reborn. As Ice and Salt started building, the original plan was simple. Make it horrific difficulty. At the time, no horrific tower had ever been beaten. Just reaching that difficulty alone would have been enough to make history. But the more he built, the less horrific felt like enough. It didn't feel like a true hardest tower like the original stone did. People began pushing it. Why stop here? Why not make it a true top 1? A tower that sits levels above everything else. And that's when everything shifted. Stone Reborn wasn't going to be horrific. Ice and Salt pushed it past that line. Stone Reborn was going to be unreal. On March 29th, 2022, Ice and Salt finally released his magnum opus, his final send-off to the community, Stone Reborn. Ice and Salt had ended it just the way he started, and now it was just a matter of time until someone finally decides to take a shot at it. This is the Eternal Abyss. A place for towers too difficult for eternal towers of hell. A place where only the absolute best even dare to step inside. Most of the hardest towers on the top towers list were born here, shaped by months of failure, and left to break whoever dares to climb them. This is the place where a single tower can erase an entire legacy. This is where players crumble, and also where history is made. And on August 10th, 2024, after getting rebalanced by Zaki, Stone Reborn was added to the Eternal Abyss. Ranking in at mid-Unreal, it was one of the hardest towers inside the whole area. And now, the completion had to be inevitable. The question wasn't if, it was when, and there was one player who would answer that question. Meet Monsters a Block, a player known for conquering some of the hardest towers and tiered obbies ever made. By 2024, he had already proven himself again and again. Grinds that would break most players only made him stronger. But then came Stairway to Heaven. It quickly became his worst grind ever. Not because he couldn't reach the end, but because he could. Over and over again, 7 times, he stood at the final jump and failed each time. Each failure erased hours of progress. Eventually, the losses caught up to him, and he didn't beat it. And after ending that grind, he stepped away from obbies entirely. But I wouldn't be talking about Block if that was the end of the story. Almost a year later, he came back and went straight back to Stairway to Heaven, the obby that had once crushed him. This time, he finally beat it. But there was one twist. Months earlier, another player called Boomsasuk had already verified the obby. What should have been redemption was now just another completion. He proved he could do it. He just wasn't first. But Block wasn't satisfied with just beating it. He wanted to prove something far bigger. He wanted to prove he was still the same player he'd been over a year ago. The same player who tore through top 1 towers back to back. The same player everyone agreed was the best in the world. Because after Stairway to Heaven, that title had slipped away. People had started doubting him, and the conversations moved on without him. And Block knew there was only one way to take it back. He had to prove himself again. In November of 2025, Monster is a Block made his decision. He was going for top 1 again. And there was no tower more iconic than Stone Reborn. At first, he grinded the tower off camera just to get a feel for it and build his consistency until he can finally start streaming after passing floor 5. The first 5 floors weren't the problem. Sure, they were difficult, but manageable. Nothing he hadn't done before. Day after day, throughout November, he played entirely off camera, rebuilding the consistency he once had. He was simply preparing for what would come next. Because everything changed at floor 6. This is floor 6, the hardest floor in the entire tower. It's a gauntlet of punishment in Stone Reborn. Brutal sections stretch on for minutes, like the infamous outside stretch where one single fail erases everything you've done. Tiny, unforgiving jumps appear, like the 1.1 stud squeeze where your character has to be perfectly aligned, or it's over. Floor 6 is merciless. Every ounce of skill and every bit of patience would be tested. And still, frustration piled higher than anywhere else in the tower. Block had already gotten past the first 5 floors countless times, only to be crushed repeatedly, here loop-failing floor 6, again and again. Even in the original stone facility, floor 6 had been one of the hardest floors ever built. This time, it was no different. What makes Stone Reborn so difficult isn't the raw difficulty of the jumps. The tower is consistency based more than anything else. It's a tower that looks like it's made up of very difficult jumps, but it's just incredibly long. The hardest part of Block's grind wasn't staying consistent. It wasn't even floor 6. It was actually learning the tower. People occasionally forget how difficult it is to verify and be the first to beat something no one has dared to attempt. Block had to learn strategies for every single jump, and that's no easy feat for such a long tower. After coming back to obbies, Block wanted to beat something infamous, but nothing really suited his skill set. Not even Stone Reborn. He decided to step out his boundaries for once, and that led him to here, on floor 6, just trying to prove himself. In proving, this is not another Stairway to Heaven grind all over again. In late December, Monster Block finally reached floor 7 for the first time, but reaching it didn't mean the run was anywhere close to over. Floors 7 and 8 are a nightmare of their own. You've just survived the brutal ordeal of floor 6. The pressure is at an all-time high, and the mistakes feel far more costly than ever. On top of that, these floors are harder than the first 5. Every jump demands precision. Runs to floor 7 were rare. They weren't occasional at all. Each one was a tiny chance to beat it, but most of the time, failure waited patiently just beyond the next jump. But as he kept grinding, he would make it to floor 7 more and more. And on January 5th, he would have this run. Block was getting closer than ever to beating it, and nothing could stop him now. Or at least that's what he thought. This is floor 9, widely considered the second hardest floor in the entire tower. Every single jump here is a threat. One mistake and your entire run could collapse. The difficulty isn't really just in the jumps, it's in the stakes themselves. Being on the 9th floor means you're so close to the end, yet so far from safety. Almost every moment sends your body into panic. Hands shake, and the heart races. Floor 9 tests nerves, endurance, and sanity. But around this time, Block had a stretch of runs that made him seriously believe he would reach floor 8 3 times in a row. He hadn't seen this type of consistency since he verified Tower of Spiraling Fates back in 2024. And with this boost in motivation, he was ready to finally take down Stone Reborn and prove himself as the best player in the world. Block failed at the very end of floor 10. Floor 10 is considered one of the easiest floors in the entire tower. Yet, he couldn't make it. Maybe it was bad luck. Maybe it was the crushing weight of pressure. Either way, the run slipped through his fingers. And now, it was looking like Stairway to Heaven all over again, reaching the very end and failing. Block didn't want this to happen. He couldn't let it happen. Because Block knew that everything he had worked for, every grind, every failure, every hour spent off camera, all of it had led to this moment. He couldn't let it end in defeat. Not this time.
ocean floor. Oh, yeah, yeah. Keep your beacon shining bright, baby. I'm on my own, still lost at sea. My thirst is dragging me down to my knees. Wave upon wave, crashing over my bow. Might be sinking, keep pulling on those oars. I keep you reeling me in. Oh, yeah, yeah. I hear the sirens calling me, baby. Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, I see your light out shining onto me. Get me off the rocky shore. Get me off the ocean floor.